Hello, this is Dear Damson, and today I am going to paint on a bottle of wine. And the first thing I did was cover the area that I will be painting with white paint mixed with Mod Podge just to make it a little bit stronger. And now with the sponge, I'm experimenting to see how I'm going to start layering and make it a little bit faster and easier. So I'm using a sponge just to create kind of like a flower in a ovally shape, and the sponge is a little bit big, so I'm squishing it down to the size that I want. So first I was dipping in the sponge, and then I'm gonna try to with the brush applying some paint on the sponge and see how that's gonna work. But I hope you're gonna enjoy this video, and if you do, please don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you get notifications from my future videos. And here it is with the brush. I'm just applying a little bit of a darker color and kind of squishing it in. I could have cut that sponge, but it doesn't matter. You can squish it really nicely. And I'm creating kind of a U shape or C shape, whatever you want to call it. My base will be a little bit lighter, then I'm gonna go a little darker, and that flower is gonna have many layers, so that sponge just gives me a really cool texture, which partially will be covered with other layers with the brush. And I'm gonna use markers that are like a glass markers or permanent markers. So really fast, I'm just positioning the flowers on the bottle. Now I left the label out because this bottle has wine in it, and I love this wine. So I wanted to have the label out while I'm giving it away for people to know what they're getting. And just makes it a little bit, I don't know, different than just covering the whole thing in paint and making it super mysterious. So if you did see, I kind of changed the strategy a little bit. I went with the darker color, and then I went with a lighter color on the top, and I'm just playing around to create a center area for the flower. So we have the petals, and then we have the center. And pretty much that was really fast base adding. And now with the pink, I will go around and add kind of 2-3 leaves on the front, 2-3 leaves on the back, and sometimes I'll try to close that with a leaf that is sticking a little bit sideways, and you're gonna see it from time to time. So I have leaves on the front, back, and maybe side. Not all of them will have side leaves, but I'm creating a kind of a cup look. And this is magenta, and the sponge just gave me a really cool texture. That's all. You can do it without a sponge, and the sponge made it really fast. So I'm gonna go in, I'm using a round brush, and I am going to just pull a few brush strokes right in the center, 3-4, something like that, with a dirty white, which is like a pinkish, very light. And you see, not overthinking it, because there's going to be so many layers coming into play here. So the markers that I'm using are metallic, and they're permanent markers. They're oil-based markers. And I got those markers from, I believe, Amazon. You can do the whole thing just with paint, which will be fine. The markers sometimes just make it easy. I decided to go a little bit more with the pink, another layer, because it looked too transparent. So and to use the markers, you need to wait for your paint to dry before you go there. Okay, so what we're doing after the paint dries is with this pink marker that actually looks more like purple, very, very dark pink. I am going to create the petals. So that's going to be our first I guess, separation on those elements that we created with the paint to make them look more like petals. The top will be ziggity-zag, and then we are making more smoother sides, so they're coming down towards the bottom center. So you can do a leaf on the front, few leaves on the side, and few leaves on the back. Don't overthink it, just go with your brush strokes that were there originally. Because we will have quite a few layers on top of all this paint and part of the marker. We're just building in. So that was it, super fast, super easy. So we're gonna continue building these flowers, and I'm adding dots on the kind of top center. And the yellow has a really good coverage, so it's not transparent, so I have to do it just once. Now if I'm doing it with paint, that might be a little problem, so I might start first with white and then do yellow, but with those markers they are just good with one layer. And with the gold, I'm gonna add a few little lines connecting this yellow dots with the flower, with the center, because this is the area where we have the pollen of the flower. Now we're getting a thicker, so actually it's gold, and we're just gonna do an eye shape leaves, very few details, just an eye shape with a center line, few lines to the side. I think I usually do 3 or 4, but those elements will be just filling in the space. So from here we're just balancing around, making it look more balanced, filled in. We're not going to just leave this leaves. We're gonna add a few more little things. Instead of making that line thicker for the stem, I just added kind of few lines sticking to the side. If you saw this, with the gold I added underline underneath our pinkish purple, our first separation of leaves. So it adds a little bit of kind of antique look, so it's not really sparkling, it's more like adding antique gold to it. I feel like the silver is more like adding sparkles than the gold. So with the green, I'm adding a few little lines on the green, not too much, because I will activate that green a little bit later with a brush and a little bit of paint, and you'll see how that's going to happen. It's going to look really cool. So the green and the gold will be kind of smudged a little bit, filling in that empty area in the middle of the leaf. So with a super thin marker, and in my case I'm using black, but you don't have to use black, you can use any color makes you happy. I'm just filling in the space with a very thin line, and I will go over that line a few times just to make it a little bit thicker, and also to make it look more perfect by actually not making it perfect, because I'm not going to follow the line completely. I am going to be either partial or next to it and kind of baking a perfect line. Most of the times when I do those swirls, because I do a lot of swirls, I will think of 3 colors that I'm going to use. And the markers make it super fast and super easy. You have a lot of control with the marker. There is number 3, and I think my thinner gold and thicker gold a little bit different on colors, so this is why I decided to use the 2 different golds. And there's tiny little elements, which are tiny little leaves just filling in the space again, just making it more balanced. You can pre-plan your design. I kind of go with the flow. The only thing that I will practice maybe is the main element, and everything else is kind of winging it real fast. So with semi-transparent white, I'm gonna go on the top of each petal and create that lighter area where we have the light hitting it. So we have we're creating the highlights, and that changes the look of our flower immediately. And also this is the time where I'm going to start a little bit of a cleanup, so anything that is a little bit outside the lines I'm going to touch up and clean up. So I don't do this while I'm painting, I do it on the end. And now a little bit less of a transparency in my white. I'm gonna go with much thinner line right on the edge. And that also will change our flower dramatically. So we did added quite a few layers. So that's where the green will come. So I have very little color on my paintbrush, and there is water, and because that's fresh marker, it kind of smudges and softens a little bit the look, so it makes it really cool. And that kind of helps. If your marker is completely dry, if you have left it to dry completely, probably it's not gonna smudge as much, but you can just add a transparent green to it. And when I'm smudging the green and the gold, because these are metallic markers, it makes it a little shiny, so it's really cool. And with a little bit of blue and green play very nicely together, so I'm just gonna add a slight line from the base of the leaf on one side, and pretty much that's going to create a light side and a dark side in my leaf and makes it really neat. And I think this is it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you get notifications for my future videos. And happy painting! Bye!